All right, Austin. Talking about radians. So one of the things we just want to go over real quick is what a radian is, or just kind of review a little bit. So if you have a circle, right? As long as we're talking about a radius of equal to 1, okay, then normally you would know that if you went all the way around a circle, it would be 360 degrees, right? So that we should know. Okay, so now there's this thing out there called radian. So on a calculator, you have a DEG button, and then you also have this button that turns it into RAD, which we call radians. It's another way of measuring angles and angle lengths and arc lengths. Okay, and it's usually, or it's always expressed in terms of pi, how many radians it is. So 360 degrees is equal to 2 pi. So if I asked you in the world of radians, how far is it around the circle, you would say it's 2 pi. So if we just broke that circle down a little bit and said, okay, if it's 2 pi all the way around the circle, all right, then halfway around the circle, right, from here to here would be 180 degrees, and that's just equal to pi, right? And 90 degrees up here would be half of pi, right? So 90 is going to be equal to 1/2 of pi, which is just pi divided by 2. Okay, so that's in terms of radians. So if I said how many radians is 90 degrees, we would say that that is equal to pi over 2. So it's just another way of measuring degrees. So hopefully that makes sense. You kind of need to understand that, or at least conceptually understand that we're really just talking about angle measures. Okay? Now we go to the problem that you had, okay, and we talk about what is the length of this arc. That's what they're looking for, okay, in radians, that subtends, which just means goes from here to here, okay, an angle of pi over 4 radians. So as long as this is 1, that's very important. Okay, as long as that's 1, then the arc is just equal to the angle. Okay, and that's the same with if this were 30 degrees, then that would be 30, and so on and so forth, right? So pi over 4 is equal to pi over 4 radians. So that would be your answer on this one. Nice and easy. Okay? So a lot of the questions are really that simple. It's just take this, and as long as this is 1, then what would that be? So if they said, okay, maybe another problem, let me just erase these here. Let's say another problem was, how about an arc that goes from here to here, right? And that distance is 5 pi over 4. Well, as long as we're talking about the circle with the radius here, then the arc length all the way over to here would be 5 pi over 4. It's that simple. Okay? So that's one thing on there. Okay, then they get a little bit harder and we start talking about radians and we say, okay, what about if we have a circle, all right, and we take that circle and instead of a radius of 1, we have a radius of 15, okay, and we say, okay, there's a radius of 1, a little circle inside it, and we say, all right, what is, if that is pi over 4 in here, what is this arc out here? So we know that this arc right here is pi over 4 because that's where the radius is 1, right? But as we go out here, now we have a radius of 15. So how do we find that? We just multiply the pi over 4 by 15. So you just multiply by 15, and in this case, you get 15 pi over 4, and 15/4 doesn't reduce. Okay? But you might get one where they do reduce. All right? That was a terrible circle. Hold on. Okay. So you might get one like maybe a radius of 18. All right? And we might say, all right, we have pi over 3 on this little guy right here. Hold on a sec. Let's see if I can do this. All right. So we might have a pi over 3 right there. that connects a radius of 1. Okay? So if we go back out now and we say, all right, that radius is 1, what is this distance here? What's the measure of that angle, right, from there to there? It's just going to be 18 times pi over 3, which is 18 pi over 3, but 18 divided by 3 is 6, right? So my answer is just 6 pi. And there's your answer.